Yo, what is up everybody? It's Dynamic here and welcome back to another MLW video. Now in today's video, we are going to be talking about the Eagles and Wildcats playoff series that had went down this past Friday. I know this is a relatively late upload, but I wanted to get some time to put my thoughts out there, really just kind of like soak in this series, because a lot of people are saying that this is the best MLW series of all time. And I personally don't think that they're too crazy for saying that, because it was an insane series. So guys, if you want more MLW content, make sure you subscribe to the channel and then also follow my Instagram. I will leave the link in the description. But without further ado, let's talk about this Eagles and Wildcats series. So obviously this is one of the closest MLW series of all time. I mean, first game, right? Wildcats go up a decent amount. I think it was like 3-0, and then Carson Yurgaitis, out of all people, hits a grand slam in the bottom of the third inning to completely, obviously, win the game, but change the course of the series. And of course, it's Carson Yurgaitis, right? A guy that we haven't seen too much of these past couple years. He's the one that delivers that bomb. One of the most clutch plays I've seen from an MLW player. I mean, I gotta give it to him. He was playing very well this series, even when he wasn't really making contact. I think he was one of those guys that, you look at and you don't want to pitch directly to, because he just had that huge moment. What if he does it again? And then in the second game, the Wildcats were able to take this one, and they were able to take it after kind of a struggle going into those last couple innings. But, help from Ty Fresnick. Sean Hornberger did an amazing job batting, and we'll get more into these players and what they're doing specifically. But, just a battle out of this team in Game 2, and then Game 3 comes, and wow, that game was just phenomenal on all fronts. I think, in my opinion, that was the best game in MLW history. It came down to a couple calls. There was a point where the Wildcats could have won the game if Kyle Schultz tagged out his brother Daniel Schultz there, but, he missed the tag. They had to go into review. There was a lot of kind of animosity between these teams, because if you guys don't remember, I made a video about it a couple weeks back, but the Eagles purposely lost in the regular season to get to this point in the playoffs. They wanted to play the Wildcats, so the Wildcats had a little bit of extra ammo. But what I want to do is go over each player individually from both teams and just talk about their performance really quickly. So for the Wildcats to start, Patrick Ballman, obviously he wasn't able to play. I saw a couple comments on the video saying that Pat Ballman, they needed to get him out there. He already pitched with his ACL. I don't really think so. He had limited movement. I think in those regular season games, they were trying it out, and at some point you just got to rest him, because it's a torn ACL. Like, they don't play through that injury in regular sports, it's especially wiffle ball, in a league where a lot of guys are just having fun. In my opinion, I would have probably criticized the choice to pitch Pat Ballman, especially him going through that injury. And then Liam Jackson wasn't there at this series, so we can just move past that. I don't think he would have got too much playing time, but he's one of those veterans that could have helped them, I suppose. Ty Fresnick, he was amazing in my opinion. Did a really good job just getting on base. I think for him, he was really swinging for the fences. He had a couple of really nice hits in this series. If it wasn't for him, they probably wouldn't have won that second game. So he's one of those guys where, the progression keeps improving, and you love to see Ty Fresnick go out and have just an amazing performance right there in that series, because in my opinion, he was probably, I don't know about the best player, but he was definitely up there for that whole series. And then Sean Hornberger, pretty similar situation to him and Ty Fresnick. They both had good series. Sean Hornberger, though, was getting less hits than Ty Fresnick, but he was walking a little bit more, so sometimes you need that. Obviously, he's a lefty, so it adds a little bit of diversity to that rotation, that hitting rotation. And then he played with energy. He played well. Obviously, they couldn't get it done, but you can't really ask too much more from Sean Hornberger and the player that he is set out to be. Maybe one day he'll become a star, and this is a great step in that direction. Then, of course, there is Kyle Schultz, who did what he did on defense. I mean, he was a defensive monster in this series. Countless clips of him just selling out to get balls, the one of him jumping over the fence. I mean, he saved a bunch of home runs. Still really wasn't what you'd love to see from the plate, but he was a great leader. And guess what? Sometimes you can't really control what happens from the plate. What he could control, which was his effort, his fielding, was 100% there. So, expect nothing less from the veteran Kyle Schultz. He did a great job. And then Jackson Pearson, who had a lot of duties in this series, he did phenomenal. There's really not a player that played badly on this team. They were all competitive, but Jackson Pearson, just an incredible performance, having to pitch that many innings, especially when, you're splitting pitching duties all season. That can't be easy. So he did a great job. Hitting-wise for Jackson Pearson wasn't bad. I think he was not as good as Sean Hornberger or Ty Fresnick, but he still did a good job of getting on base. Definitely one of those guys that you like to see get up to the plate if you're a Wildcats fan. So Jackson Pearson, I really have nothing but positive things to say about him. He was changing up his timing a little bit, which personally I'm not the biggest fan of. I think that's really only effective if you're throwing the same timing over and over again and then you change your timing for the last pitch. But it seemed to be working for him, and he does it in a way where it's still very controlled and responsible. Is that a good word? Responsible. So, Jackson Pearson, great performance. Let's move on to the Eastern Eagles. For the Eastern Eagles, I saw a lot of comments saying like, oh, MLW fans don't want to see the Eagles win. If you look at it, there's a lot of hate going to this Eagles team right now. I contributed to that. I'm the one that, made a video about this team, so I'm not completely scot-free. But let me just say that I think this team is so overhated. They played an incredible series and got almost no credit for it from MLW fans. Dallas Allen, he was just insane. He had something like 9 hits. In that last game or in that series, it was just ridiculous. He was in the whole series, he had 9 hits, but wow, he was just dominant, not only from the plate but from the mound. And yeah, of course, some of that emotion is going to come out, right? You're playing, it's a playoff series. You've got your squad behind you. You're kind of backs against the wall a little bit because you set yourselves up to be the villains by, making that choice, making that decision. So, Dallas, I like what I saw from him. I know a lot of people were saying, he was being a baby or whatever. I don't think so. That's just me, having some time to really, soak in that series and just get used to it. Isn't that what you want to see? You want to see a little bit of that competitiveness in the MLW. So I like him. Dallas Allen, he's a beast, right? He can back it up. So just an incredible series from him, not only from the plate, but from the mound. And he really had to do everything in his power to win this series. The Eagles did not play as good of a series as the Wildcats did, but they had the best player in the whole series, and that was Dallas Allen, and that is for sure. Carter Richard wasn't at the Meadows. Daniel Schultz, he had a decent series, didn't really do too much in my opinion, but he was a great leader, made some great managerial decisions. Hitting wise, he's always going to be a little bit of a threat. I like the way he was walking, getting on base. He, in my opinion, was just kind of the flip side of Kyle Schultz, right? That reliable defense that Kyle Schultz provides, for Daniel Schultz, it's that reliable offense. And he was bringing that. Evan Trackman, similar situation to Pat Ballman, didn't really get to see any of him. That's okay, he's still young. I hope he understands. Carson Urgaitis, an amazing grand slam, right? In that first game. After that, he kind of started to slow down a bit. But, he was the reason they won that series, man. It always comes down to that last guy on your team. And Carson Urgaitis, he might have an A.J. Ackerman sort of Levi Fleer playoff run. That would be pretty dang cool to see Carson Urgaitis pull that out. But we got to see that competitive side of him, and, I always like that. And Landon Urgaitis, he's the one guy on this team who I actually believe underperformed. And underperformed is kind of a crazy word because he's just been that good this season that you expect him to go in the playoffs and hit a couple bombs. He still had 1 home run, which is obviously really solid. I just don't think he really connected with Jackson's pitches as well as some of the other guys on this team, and he knows that. I think it will be better in the next series. But yeah, if Landon Urgaitis was kind of on his stuff, I think this series could have been over a little bit quicker. He wasn't, and that's okay. Players have off days. He really hasn't had an off series all season. So, you look at that and you're just like, okay. And then also, the energy was there, the base running. He still did get a couple of hits. So, Landon Urgaitis, I just have high expectations for him. It's nothing bad there. So yeah, guys, that's really all I have to say about this series. You know, in my opinion, it was an amazing series to watch. I wish every MLW series would be that intense. You know, I love the competitiveness. We're really in a new era of MLW wiffle ball, so it's awesome to see. Man, if y'all like this video, make sure to subscribe, like. A lot more videos come down the pipeline. Just got a little bit busy, but we're getting back on schedule. So love y'all and peace.